think as a Georgia fan all year long, it was kind of like nothing to see here. Don't look at us at number one. Like it was kind of, move on, don't stare. But you mentioned it. The Braves, maybe the Braves broke the curse for Atlanta sports fans because for years it was, last year was a 3-1 lead over the Dodgers blown. The Falcons collapse against the Patriots where you just kind of go, man, Atlanta sports fans and Georgia fans are just kind of used to disappointment. And now to have success. It was crazy, Greeny, when Ringo made that pick six. And I appreciate you all the time because you show your fandom and you show you're human with that side and you show your family's human. Like I walked from one side of the stands to the other on near the Georgia sideline. And I can't explain to you how many grown people I saw with tears in their eyes. Mm-hmm. Like, 41 years of trying, 41 years, you saw in the pregame show the Red Sox and the curses and just all the stuff so close so many times to finally do it, man. You just saw so much joy from so many people, and it was really, really cool to be a part of that.
Yeah, look, I mean, I'm old enough to remember Herschel Walker and those teams back then, and it has been that long since this team is where it is right now. Greeny presented by Progressive Insurance. Drivers who switch and save with Progressive save over $700 on average. Call or click today. There's really two big storylines for this team, for those folks who don't follow college football all year long. One of them is the defense, and this was a defense people were talking about as one of the greatest in the history of the sport. And then they ran into Alabama and Bryce Young in the SEC championship game. And not only did he shred them, but it really made people question them, I felt like. I felt like the narrative became, well, did they really play a tough schedule, all that kind of stuff. Now that they've won the championship and they shut down Bama last night, what is the legacy of this defense?
It's definitely one of the greatest of all time. You held Alabama and the Heisman Trophy winner to under 20 to win. You score. It was definitely a different story, but it was definitely embarrassing too. But you're talking about giving up 6 points a game going into the SEC championship game. Had their setback and definitely deserved the criticism that they brought on themselves. But just an unbelievable group of guys that you're talking about upper echelon of talent. Greeny, I think in the front seven alone, I think you'll have at least 7 first and second and third round picks. That kind of historical, dominance. Mm-hmm. That's that kind of lethal, players and big, physical, strong, speed. You could see, man, both teams when they're on the field, just holes closed with a quickness. So I think it's definitely a defense that leaves its mark as one of the greatest, not the greatest, but one of the greatest in college football history. And how about the revenge factor too? I think this is the 5th time, Greeny, you've had top 5 matchups repeat in the postseason, and all 5 times the team that lost first won the rematch. Right. So motivation, obviously, a powerful factor.
Yeah, and the running game is the key last night. I'll make this Straight Talk brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. Alabama ran the ball for 301 yards against Cincinnati in the semifinal. Granted, that's a different level of competition, but still 301 yards. Last night, Bama had 28 carries for 30 yards. They averaged 1.1 yards per carry. That, David, as much as anything, is the ball game last night.
That's crazy, and especially considering I thought Bama did a really good job in the third quarter kind of coming out and establishing the run after having 10 yards at the half. But then you saw the sacks and the negative plays and, the size and physicality of Georgia's defense kind of take over. But, Bryce Young did a really good job under duress, took a bunch of hits throwing the ball. But, the running game, this has not been a vintage Alabama running team all year long. But they've been able to do whatever they needed to do. If they played a team like Cincinnati and they needed to pound it, they'd pound it. If they played a team like Georgia, they could throw it. But they just ran into a defense that's physical and stout. And obviously there's not much in the running game that you get against those guys.
Straight Talk Wireless, no contract, no compromise. And then the other storyline, I mentioned there really are two. Georgia was built on its defense this year, and that wins them the championship. But so does this quarterback, Stetson Bennett, and every underdog everywhere should love this story. This is a kid who came as a walk-on. He was questioned all season long. This is a team that, while it was unbeaten, I still had people saying to me, hey, they've got this kid, this highly touted recruit. When are they going to make the change and all that kind of stuff? Then he has the huge turnover in the fourth quarter last night, the kind of crazy play that's ruled a fumble that could easily have cost them the game. And instead of that, he then finishes unbelievably strong, throwing 2 touchdowns after that. How about the Stetson Bennett story for people who don't really know it intimately?
It's crazy. Listen, I do this for a living, so I get questions all the time, and it just, to the point where before the Orange Bowl, I'm on Get Up and I'm answering questions. How long is Kirby going to roll with Stetson Bennett?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, bro, he had a 20-3 touchdown to interception ratio. If this kid isn't a walk-on, like, we're not having this discussion. Greeny, he didn't take reps in fall camp.
Yeah.
Like, they had JT Daniel. Carson Beck was the number 2 quarterback. Vandergrift comes in as the second best quarterback in the country as a high school recruit. Like, he's buried on the depth chart. But when JT gets hurt, they had to go to somebody they trusted in a big moment to make sure that, they could depend on him and not lose the game with what they had. And then all of a sudden he takes over. But his story, walk on, grew up a Georgia fan, leaves Georgia, goes to junior college because he wants to play. Kirby offers him a scholarship to come back to Georgia as a backup, as a scout team quarterback. But his love for Georgia was bigger than that. And you saw the tears of joy. But this is a kid that, again, when you're a 5-star kid and when you're, work at a big corporation or a big company, you have instant credibility. This kid's had to work for everything he's got. And by the way, been doubted along the way the whole time. Georgia fans, I live in Georgia. When's JT going to play again? Like, this kid can't take us to a championship, can they? Not only did he did it with 2 drives in the fourth quarter, 2 touchdown drives when you needed him the most. He came through in the clutch. So, just a guy that's been doubted by Georgia fans, Georgia coaches along the way, but just continued to believe in himself. And now he's a national champion, and one of the main reasons why.
Thank you for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.